What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Conklin. I'm the Assistant Director of New and Creative Media with Clemson Athletics, and I'm here with Jonathan.
Yeah, hey, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time with us. I know it's late on Wednesday. Everybody's a little bit exhausted from the NAB experience, but appreciate the opportunity to share our story with you. Obviously, there's a lot of expertise here in the entire show, a lot of expertise in the audience. Where we think we fit in is the two things you see up here are creating content, video content specifically built for the social media experience. And then number two is content velocity. So being able to turn content around in a really efficient workflow to try to get it to people when they care about it the most. Those are the two things we're going to be covering. A little bit more about our team. Over 2 million fans and followers on our own social accounts. We just surpassed that mark in February. We've been covered, featured by Forbes, SVG, Sports Business Journal. We're now seeing a really cool thing in our industry where schools like Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, big-time programs are starting to mimic a lot of what we've done at Clemson, and we're thankful that we've got great leadership at our university that helped put us on the front end of what's now being called the digital arms race. Again, my name is Jonathan Gant. I'm the Director of New and Creative Media. Been at Clemson for about 3 years. That's when we started our digital transformation, formerly with the Tampa Bay Rays. I have an amazing wife, Becca, 2 incredible daughters, Amelia and Samantha. They're back home in South Carolina. They don't necessarily have a lot to do with the presentation today, but I am quite fond of them, so I like to talk about them as much as I can.
And again, I'm Nick. I've been at Clemson since spring of 14. I'm a former men's soccer student athlete at Long Island University in Brooklyn, New York. My beautiful wife, Charlotte, and my son, Reese, are also in South Carolina, and I love them dearly.
So there you go. Why social media? Nick's going to go into an actual deep dive, like show you a demo of our workflow on a game day. But before we do that, we'll start with the foundational question of, like, why should you spend time on social media? Well, the answer for us at Clemson University goes to this graph over here on the left. As you can see, recruits, these are our 4 target audiences, and recruits are the most important to us. If we can bring the best character, most talented student athletes to play for our teams, that gives us the best chance to win games, win championships, drive revenue, give the entire Clemson family the best experience possible. But where do recruits get their information? Where do they get their entertainment, their news? How do they communicate with their friends and their family? Well, the answer to that question right now is social media. So if that's where they are, that's where we need to be. So that's why we focus on social media. But it wasn't enough just to take traditional video principles and just kind of slap them onto social. We really needed to focus on creating a new format, something specifically built for how you view social media. You think about, some of you may actually be doing this right now, but scrolling through a news feed on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, you're not necessarily, at least on a consistent basis, looking for something to take like a deep dive in. You're not looking for long-form storytelling. You're looking for something that's snackable, something that you can keep scrolling through. So that's what we focused on. Really dynamic, really quick-hitting 6, 15, maybe 30-second videos. And you see a great example of that over on the right. This is probably one of our more famous ones, actually captured and edited by Max Huggins, who's sitting right there in the crowd today. But that's Dabo Sweeney after we beat Notre Dame. And it's an example of, if recruits are our target audience, I want to send every possible recruit that video right there, because how could you not want to be in that locker room after a game? So that's what we try to do, is sell Clemson, capture the amazing things that are happening with our programs, and share those with recruits to help share the experience of what it's like to be a Clemson Tiger.
So our video content kind of falls into one of 2 pillars. The first being the evergreen content, which are things that exist outside of the immediate, not necessary to get them out so quickly, but also exist outside the confines of social media and what social media kind of limits you to, sometimes on length of videos. But those are 2 examples on the side here. But what we're here to talk about is event coverage and our content velocity. So that's single focus roles of the individuals that are involved in the production, where we capture, edit, and publish to get it out quick. And what better way to show you some of those content velocity examples than from our national championship victory back in January.
I'm living in that 21st century, doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you ever seen do it. Screams from the haters, got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero need his theme music. No one man should have all that power. The clock's ticking, I just count the hours. Stop tripping, I'm tripping off the power. system broken, the school's closed, the prison's open. We ain't got nothing to lose. Like this.
What up, Clemson fans? We're on the plane, heading back to Death Valley. Ready to see the love and support. We're bringing the NAB back to Clemson, baby. Let's go. Let's go Tigers.
So there you go. That was actually 7 videos that we just saw back to back, but it took less than 2 minutes to watch all of them. So you get an idea of what we're doing for the output on social media. All those were really quick hitting, really dynamic stuff. The first 6 that you saw during the game were actually posted within 60 minutes of the game ending. So that's where that content velocity comes in. And then the last one, the plane video, was actually edited and distributed before the plane ever took off. So that's something that we really have to focus on in sports, but hopefully there's some stuff that translates to whatever industry that you're in. But we need to get this type of content to people when they actually care about it. So for instance, that plane video, if we weren't able to get it out before the plane took off, we were going to start posting content when the plane landed and the buses were going back to the stadium, so it wouldn't have done us any good. So we've really got to focus on having the most efficient workflow possible to get that stuff turned around. Adobe solutions are a huge, huge part of that for us. And to take a little deeper dive, Nick's going to go through that now.
All right, I can talk at great length about this, so I'm going to try and be as concise as possible because I can become long-winded, but I know you guys don't need that. So these are actually screenshots of our workflow. I'm going to go ahead and say that Adobe Prelude is the unsung hero of our workflow. And the reason I say that is because on game day, we've got a lot of videographers. We've got a lot of people shooting and creating content on the field. So we shoot primarily on Sony Alpha series, so that's A7S, A6300s. And then we've also got people shooting on Reds, people shooting on the broadcast cameras, and so it's very important to me and to the rest of our team that we stay as organized as possible. And Adobe Prelude lets us do that. So real quick, in the bin right here, we organize as much beforehand as we can. So obviously we haven't shot anything yet before the game starts, but if I've got my bins organized from when the team arrives, pre-game, quarter one, all the way through the end of the game, that helps us, again, stay organized and stay as efficient as possible in the workflow. Next slide here. I wrote down a list just so I can go down it so I don't become long-winded. The first thing is identifying the files, right? And so most of our videographers shoot with multiple SD cards, and the reason being is as soon as they drop one off, and me as the desk editor, I put that into the computer, into the SD card slot, I can give them the memory card, they can go back out and continue to capture content. There's never a lull in waiting for things to be done. So, identifying the clips, so obviously they'd be on the SD card, and as many of you know, shooting with the Alpha Series cameras and many other cameras, every time you format the memory card, with a lot of cameras, it restarts the numbering system, the file numbering system. And so the C0001s, if I don't rename my files, by the end of the game, if I take the memory card 5 times, well, I've got 5 of the same file extension. As I'm sure many of you know, that can become a pain in the butt. And so it's very important that we have an intricate file system. So, identifying where the files are located on the SD card, and then transferring the clips to the destination. Always put them on an external hard drive, and then I put them into subfolders based on the segment of the game. So the team arrival, pregame, always with the date, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner. And then the next thing here, This is the most valuable part, is adding the file metadata. We always burn Clemson football or whatever the sport is. We got 19 other varsity sports, so it could be rowing, it could be men's soccer. We always burn that file metadata in so that we can go back and we can find it later. And then to take that a step further, that Prelude allows us to do, is to take that C0001 file and we can actually rename the clips. My students, I'm sure I drive them nuts with this, but I like to get as intricate as possible with the renaming system, because as fast as we move, it doesn't make sense for us to kind of stop and try and go through everything and star clips and this, that, and the other thing. But as long as we have them organized in that segment, then we're going to be okay, and we're going to be able to identify these clips. So as you can see, the matchup always takes precedence. So that's Clemson versus Virginia Tech. This is actually our file renaming system for the ACC championship game that happened in December. And then after the matchup, so whoever the opponent is, we have the date. Obviously very important for the date. I mean, we play South Carolina every year. It's not good enough to just have Clemson versus South Carolina. I need the date so I know which year these clips are shot in. After the date, we've got the breakdown. So the segment, that's the team arrival, that's pregame, whatever it may be. And then after the team arrival, or after the breakdown, I like to put the initials of the videographer. Again, we have multiple people shooting on the Alpha Series cameras. I want to know who shot what. I want to know who captured what. My initials are NRC, and so I'm going to put my initials in there after I capture the content to know that I shot that. I was the one that did that. Plus, it makes it easier for the editor to identify, and like, you know, if these students and whoever's shooting wants to use it for their reels, they can do that. They can identify the clips that they shot. And then the last and maybe the most important is the creation time. Creation time paired with the initials of the individual. We may capture the same touchdown on three different cameras with 3 different angles. So what's important, because the creation time may be the same, the initials are different, so we know whose camera that was on, if that makes sense to you guys. And then after we ingest it, we bring those into the body of the Prelude. And then from Prelude, we send it over to Premiere Pro. And then without getting too much into it, we're editing the entire time. We're laying things down on the timeline. We're identifying them in the project window. And that's where we really, really get into the nitty-gritty of the workflow and laying things down. CC libraries is incredibly important to our workflow. It allows us to add brand guidelines. That's our branded watermark. That's the tiger paw sometimes at the end of the video. Now with the new CC update, with motion graphics being integrated into libraries now, we're able to do a motion lower third, which you guys actually saw in an earlier video, and you'll see it again here in a second. Where our graphic designer, Jeff Cowan, who's not here with us at the moment, but very integral member of our content team, he creates the After Effects template so that we, as the editors or the videographers, can adjust the score, can adjust the opponent with different logos, whatever it may be. So that's the new update with Creative Cloud, incredibly integral. So, I think I'm good.
Nailed it.
We'll get to the example right here.
So that was obviously a great night for us, win the ACC championship. But what's really important is that's a series that we do for every game called the 1-second series. So Nick came up with the concept of, again, how do you create something that fits the social media experience? That's a collection of 1-second shots laid down on a timeline. So if you're scrolling through a newsfeed, it gets your attention and it stimulates the viewer for the entire time. You're changing it up. You're keeping their attention. You're keeping it engaging. It's a great example of content built for social. One thing that Nick was referencing is as he's ingesting all that material, we usually have 1 to 3 shooters for every single game. It's not enough just to have that 1-second series come out an hour after the game ends. The broadcast window is 3 hours long. We can't just go dark on social during that time. That's when people are paying the most attention. So we need to be pushing out engaging content that entire time. That's where Nick being able to ingest, organize all those clips. While he's doing that, he's picking out what we call money clips, shots that can stand on their own, that can be really good engaging social content during the game. An example of that is what you see over on the left. Nick, the shot that you see was included in the 1-second series, but he also pulled it out and exported it on its own, uploaded it to a cloud storage that I could access, while he's doing that, pulling it into Prelude and Premiere, and maybe doing some basic color correction, time remapping, our lead editor, Nick referenced him, Jeff Callan, he's pre-produced the score overlay that you see on the bottom here. It's a great example of all of this, all the organization, all the preparation is so that we can move quickly on game day. So he's produced that in advance. All we have to do is change the score. So he's keeping track of the score. He's uploading different versions of it in case the score happens like 10 seconds before the halftime. But he's putting that in our Creative Cloud libraries. I'm actually on the field with my iPhone, with my mobile device. I pulled open Adobe's mobile app, Premiere Clip, which we use a lot. It's really handy for us. I pull that open. I'm able to add that overlay as a watermark. It's a transparent PNG. I'm able to upload it and add it in Premiere Clip. I've gotten the file that Nick's given me. I put that in there. I add some music, and I'm able to distribute that straight from my phone to social media. So again, if Nick had to do all that on his own, that would totally derail his entire workflow. But because he's got one part of that, Jeff's got one part of that, and I've got one part of that, it allows us to move really quickly. And it's a great example of making sure that we're maximizing the really great assets that we've got of our shooters, all the stuff that they're getting throughout the game.
So I can't state it enough how key organization of these files is to our workflow. So here's another example of repurposing this clip. Look, as an editor, many of you know that a lot of stuff gets left on the cutting room floor, but we like to repurpose content because when you repurpose the content, when you repurpose this video clip from the 1-second series to the score graphic, it changes the context of what this clip is and what it can become. So this is a perfect example. If this clip wasn't properly organized, it was shot by Max Huggins, who's here today. It's a beautiful shot of our quarterback, Deshaun Watson, who's going to have a very successful time in Philadelphia tomorrow. He is, we identified this clip, and so we brought it back in. This is outside of the immediate content velocity. So this kind of falls in line maybe with some of that evergreen content that isn't, this clip didn't necessarily need to be put out, you know, within 24 hours of the game, but it's something that we can use maybe for like a Heisman campaign, which this was used for. So again, another example of using the clip again, keeping it organized, but also changing the context of what that clip is used for.
And going back and doing stuff later like that is only possible because of the organization that happens that night. So all that organization, all that preparation, again, is, you know, in sports there's a lot that you can prepare for. You know that there's going to be an end of the first quarter. You know there's going to be a halftime. You know there's going to be a final score. There's also a lot you can't prepare for. You don't know if somebody's going to catch a 60-yard touchdown diving catch in the end zone. So we try to do as much on the front end to prepare for the stuff that we know is going to happen so that we can respond to the things that you could never prepare for. The important thing to notice, too, is hopefully on the output, what it looks like on the outside is that it's really amazing, high-quality video content. That's another thing, is obviously content, velocity, and speed is really important to us, but we never want to sacrifice quality. Making sure that the stuff is engaging, professionally done is very important to us. But all we need, ultimately, is, you know, a laptop, internet, and an outlet, and we're good to go. That's actually us at the ACC Championship game a couple of years ago after the game. Crowded photo workroom, not a lot of space, so we just went out to the field and did the work from there. That's where we're at during home games. It's not exactly a very glamorous workspace, but it's better for us to just be agile and flexible because with all the different places that we have to go, you never know what your actual workspace is going to look like. So our requirements are really low in terms of what we need to get the job done. So all of that has impacted our athletic department in a lot of positive ways. Obviously, recruiting first and foremost. It's helped with fundraising. We have a phrase at Clemson where we like to say the paw is powerful. You can see the audience growth of our social channels. Like I said, past 2 million followers for our social channels back in February. The video views in the last 9 months alone, over 34 million. And Nick is actually our only full-time videographer for digital. And so I say that because we don't have a huge staff. We don't have you know, these totally unique resources that can't be replicated. We're doing this with really talented, good people and maximizing the resources that we have. And the Adobe partnership is what's huge in that because we can bring on student assistants and we know that they have the same first-class tools. We know they're going to have Creative Cloud libraries, all of that to create this content based on what Nick set up for them.
Yeah, as Jonathan said, students are integral to our workflow. It's something that we're incredibly passionate about, developing them, giving them a valuable experience. Out of the 10 or so videos you saw, I created one of them. Out of the 7 that were at the national championship, I created one. It was like a 15-second video, but there's so much more in there. So that just goes to show how incredibly talented our students are, how passionate they are. You know, we have an incredible amount of trust. It takes a lot of time to work with them and develop them because, again, we want them to have a valuable experience. Our students are not only, they're industry professionals, and 3 of them are here actually, Brad Cohen, Andy Turner, Max Huggins. If you guys could raise your hand, please. They're here with us. They're actually producing content for Adobe. They're industry professionals that are seen as tastemakers, not by a younger generation of content producers or videographers, but by leaders in the industry. So we got ESPN, we got Nike, Turner, the NCAA. These guys are getting these opportunities. These guys and gals are getting these opportunities because they're incredibly talented and they got a passion, and it's a passion that we share.
Yeah, so very thankful for everything that they do, and certainly grateful for the great mentorship that we have from people like Nick, Jeff, Brian Hennessy, DJ Gordon, and our entire athletic communication staff. And then it's a testament to our leadership, too, of Dan Radakovich, Tim Match, Joe Galbraith, our university president, Jim Clements, and then even our former CIO, Jim Bottom, who helped set up this Adobe partnership with Jonathan Hammond from Adobe. All of that coming together, and especially at the time when we were winning a national championship, was an amazing kind of perfect storm of events that have led us here. Again, appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, share a little bit about our story today. I'm actually going to ask our students, Andy's in the middle of doing an Instagram story at the moment. I'm going to ask them to come over here to the right. If you want to talk to me or Nick, cool guy Nick with the Ronin, the DJI, and then super nerd Jonathan with the mobile gimbal over there on the left.
We're much less interesting. You want to talk to those guys.
Yeah, come over, make the students hand you a business card. These guys are getting a lot of job offers from a lot of different people. That was one of the coolest experiences for us here last year is Kevin Collins, I referenced earlier. We said that he was a senior looking for a job. Guy from the Atlanta Falcons came over to us. Kevin actually got a job with the Atlanta Falcons just out of this presentation last year at NAB. So we need at least one job offer out of this for one of the students. No, just joking. But yeah, come over to the side. We'd love to talk to you more about stuff. Thank you to Lisa, to Seb, everybody at Adobe for bringing us here. We've had a great experience. Hopefully you have some stuff that you can take away from our presentation here. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your time at NAB, and go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Thank you.